Maria, Maria, we have so much we can talk about today. Ooh, it's going to be a juicy episode.
I love it. Tell me, what's the phrase?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Because I forget sometimes, I get excited and I start yammering before I actually present the phrase. So let's go ahead and do that because this is, after all,
the Spanish phrase.
That's right, the podcast where we jump into Spanish expressions and we explore their origins and their cultural context and how to use them, right, in conversation.
You still haven't said the phrase.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. So, this phrase is hay mucha tela que cortar.
Oh, I love it. There is a lot of cloth to cut.
That's right. Literally a lot of cloth to cut. Now, if we were looking at this phrase in English only, that translation, what do you think it would mean?
Well, because I know what it means, it's very difficult for me to imagine it as meaning anything else. It means having a lot of cloth to cut. Tener mucha tela que cortar means you have a lot of things to talk about.
That's right. But the thing is, I agree with you. In English, I think it conveys the same idea. If you have a lot of cloth to cut, it means you have a lot to do, something that is really complex with lots of details, right?
Yes. So it could pretty much mean the same. So what subject do you want to talk about that has a lot of tela que cortar? The other day, for example, we were talking about boredom.
Ooh, that's a big subject.
It's an interesting one, but do you have any other subject in mind? If not, I do, but I ask you first because see how polite I am.
Oh, well, that's interesting because, so this phrase, mucha tela que cortar, and we'll step back and talk about the origin in a few minutes, but I was interested to ask you how you are accustomed to using the phrase because I have a very specific memory of this phrase, at least how I've heard it used, like growing up in Peru by my friends and family. I'm used to it referring to gossip.
Oh, to me, it's interesting because I think about it when, you know how we live in times of doubt or certainties, and I prefer people who doubt than people who think they have the truth in their hand.
Yes.
So when somebody tries to oversimplify a topic to me saying, oh, this is how it is, period, they say, well, no, there's mucha tela que cortar about this topic. Why don't we discuss a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
Hoping to make them maybe doubt a little bit. So
that's right.
It's mostly related to that instead of gossiping.
Yeah, your interpretation.
Although, if you want to talk about gossip.
Oh, see, I told you it was going to be a juicy episode.
I know. Well, maybe what happened to Macron and the slap in the face, that's a lot of tela que cortar. We could be talking all the episode about that, but that is gossip.
Yes, and speculation, right? We don't really know. And there's been an official statement by Macron and all that. But yeah, that's it. The video is certainly really damning. And also one of those examples of a journalist, a camera person, in the exactly right moment at the right time to capture that.
But yeah, let's not fall into gossip, right?
No,
we want to, but we won't go there.
That's why I asked you, because I just have memories of growing up hearing this phrase always in that context. And it works. Obviously, it makes sense. If you have gossip, juicy gossip in your social circles, that means that you have a lot to talk about. But there's a much more mature and interesting use of this phrase, like you mentioned, in a world that often views things as black or white, simplistic. In truth, we have to spend time talking about all the details, the gray areas.
Or another topic that has a lot of tela que cortar, other than ideas, is, for example, I've been thinking about it a lot because he recently passed, which is the life of Sebastião Salgado, the photographer. He started as a photographer of war, and then he decided that was too depressing for him, so he moved to being a photographer of nature. And then he bought a huge land in Brazil, and him and his wife started planting trees, and they converted a completely dry and arid terrain in a pretty much a tropical forest. all that is not that I'm an expert in Sebastián Salgado. I just watched the documentary Salt of the Earth, which I highly recommend. But that's a life that gives a lot of tela que cortar.
Yeah, especially considering, so he started out as a war photographer.
Oh yes, he has some of the most war photographer, and he also have amazing images of the minería, the mineros.
Yes.
In Brazil, mining
Mhm.
exactly. So he fascinating life, a lot of tela que cortar. I really recommend you watch that documentary, Salt of the Earth.
Wow, I will. That's going on my list for sure. So yeah, before we jump into other subjects that have a lot of tela que cortar, lots to talk about, let me take a moment and tell you about the origin of this phrase.
Before you say that, let's remind our audience that we are part of News in Slow Spanish.
Thank you. Yes, you know what? Sometimes when we have mucha tela que cortar, I forget to remind them. Yeah, the basics. And speaking of basics, that's what you can learn. That and so much more on News in Slow Spanish, where you're learning Spanish through current events.
But if you also want to know the origins and the uses of tons of idiomatic expressions in Spanish, News in Slow Spanish is also the place to go.
Oh yeah, we have a whole catalog where each entry focuses on a phrase. It looks into the origin, the history, and then also you can find at least one, sometimes two or three dialogues where you can hear the phrase.
Dialogues in Spanish.
In Spanish, that's right. Not like JASP, not like just a Spanish phrase. Oh, by the way, I think I just revealed that that's the acronym that we use here in the office to talk about this podcast.
It's okay, just a Spanish phrase. But I want to hear the origin because they're usually fascinating. What is the origin of tela que cortar?
Yes, I love this one. And y tiene mucha tela que cortar. This origin has a lot to discuss because it is referring to sails, velas. So the sailcloth that goes into shipbuilding. Okay, so if you think about shipbuilding, it's a very complex task. It requires a lot of skilled artisans, and in particular, sail making was a really difficult job that required lots of time, lots of manual labor, and lots of precision. So think of several hundred years ago when they were making large wooden ships, they would have these workshops to make the sails. And
also, I love sailing. This is not regular cloth. This is a very difficult to work with cloth because it's very strong type of cloth.
So it required very skilled hands. No, don't. The very skilled hands to manage these enormous rolls of cloth, to cut it very precisely, and then to very securely and precisely sew it together. So the sails often had very large panels, and then these large panels had to be joined with other large panels. And so in that industry of ship making and sail making specifically, that phrase, tener tela que cortar, became synonymous with having a lot to do. And not just a lot to do, but a lot of fine detail work.
Before you can sail away?
Yeah, before you can finish a sail, right, and sail away. So it was important because the industry of sailing, of ship making and sail making, was time sensitive. Ships were waiting in the port to be built because there was stuff that needed to leave port, and making the sails was a very important task. So where does this come from? The origin is Andalusia, Spain, where nowadays that port in Seville, is not a major shipping port for the world. But in the 13th, 14th, and 15th centuries, it was one of the major ports for the Spanish kingdom. So the royal shipyard in Seville, Spain, is where they were making ships 24 hours a day, all year round, and lots of sail making. So the skilled artisans who were making the sails, they came up with this phrase that became synonymous with, we have a lot of work to do, a lot of ground to cover.
Sorry, boss, don't give me another task. I still have mucha tela que cortar.
Exactly.
I cannot build another sailboat right now. I'm still building the sails.
That's right.
Interesting. I love it.
So what do we have to talk about before we sign off this episode of just a Spanish phrase?
Well, I think this is it because we already we cut so much tela that now we run out
We're
of time.
running out of time. But before we go, I do want to ask our listeners if they're enjoying this podcast and all the other phrases that we've covered so far and all the many, many, many phrases that we still can cover in the future. Leave us a little review, share us with your friends.
And all these conversations we have here and all this origin of expressions will give you a lot of tela que cortar to talk about with your friends.
That's right. Lots to talk about. So,
adios.
Adios.